The two main topics on everybody's mind in the weather community are when will Gabrielle form out in the Atlantic, and tell me more about this record-breaking air mass as fall makes an intrusion into the lower 48. We're going to dive into both of those headlines and much more. We're going to have your weather forecast for the next several days, which includes severe weather for some of you. Yeah, we're talking tornadoes, potential damaging wind, and large hail possible. Also going to take a look at space and geological weather and test your weather IQ coming up straight ahead. But right now we're going to start here in the tropics. Hi everybody, welcome into the show. Jason is my name, and if you are interested in the weather, you are in the right place. This is Cold Range Weather World, and we've got all the weather right here. As I always say, you may not like the forecast, but I promise you, you're going to learn something and have a little fun along the way. That's my commitment to you folks. At the top of the show, I told you that the main tropical headline is Gabrielle, potential Gabrielle out in the Atlantic. So why am I showing the Eastern Pacific? Well, we've got a hurricane out here, Hurricane Lorena, Category 1 storm, 75 miles per hour, moving to the northwest currently, but it's going to hook back into the Baja and park itself somewhere up in northern Mexico over the next 5 days. Why is that important? Well, could play a role here in the southeast, or southwest rather, across the southern tier as we work through next week. So I wanted to put that on your radar just so you're aware of it. Now, switching gears out here in the Atlantic, here is the red zone that we've been watching. Still a 70% chance of development as this little wave moves slowly to the west and northwest over the next 2 weeks. It's going to take some time to get over here. About 10 days it'll be in the vicinity of the islands or somewhere up here in the southern part of the western Atlantic and continuing to move in the direction of the United States. Now, I've got all this text in a crawler going across the bottom of the screen. A little bit later, I'll have the convective outlook from the SPC in a crawler across the bottom of the screen, and I'll also have a crawler that goes across the top with a cool little fun fact this day in weather history. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, nothing else going on out in the Atlantic right now anyway. We've got all of our activity down here in the convergence zone. In the MDR, here's the little wave that we're watching. You see that convection associated with it. It's not organized yet, but it could get its act together later on. We're continuing to watch the Gulf and the southeast coast as these frontal zones hang up here. The water's warm. You could get some convection, a little organization, a little vorticity comes out of that, starts to spin. We haven't seen a lot of that this year. Saw Chantal earlier this year, but nothing else really going on out here. But we're going to keep our eyes on it because some of the models and the ensembles suggest there could be some activity in the Gulf over the next couple of weeks as these frontal boundaries. You can see one kind of working through the Midwest here, bringing some fall up there. That's going to hang up here eventually later on. And so we're going to watch it. That's what's going on here in the Atlantic anyways. Here are a couple of models I want to show you just to give you an idea. There's still wide variance, as you would expect, way out in time with these different solutions, and different models show different things. Nobody needs to panic. Nobody needs to lock in on one solution. There's a lot of different options on the table, and I'll show you why that is. Here's the European model. As we get on out here toward the weekend, we're starting to see a little bit of organization. The next 2 or 3 days, we could see this thing develop into a depression. We get on out in time towards Sunday into Monday. We start to finally see it strengthen toward tropical storm status as it approaches the islands late next week. Thursday into Friday, we're seeing this system move toward the northern islands on the European operational. That would bring some squally weather and some winds and rain into St. John's, potentially Puerto Rico and northern parts of the DR before it hooks on up into the north of the Bahamas. Meanwhile, it's developing another system off the east coast, so we need to pay attention to that, like I said earlier. There goes Gabrielle dissipating a bit, but this other system starts to strengthen. This could be the next system after Gabrielle, affecting the Mid-Atlantic and Cape Cod, New England, Nova Scotia eventually as we get on out into the 13th of September. That's a Saturday, the 14th, 15th, Monday and Tuesday, and even into Wednesday affecting parts of Nova Scotia. Meanwhile, Gabrielle weakens and then re-strengthens a little bit. It's going to be fighting some shear according to the European model and some dry air too. Got another little system back here. The wave train keeps on rolling as it normally does as we approach the peak of tropical or hurricane season. Well, here's what the GFS shows. It gets this thing together pretty quick again. We're starting to see a depression forms Friday into Saturday of this weekend. Sunday and Monday into Tuesday, still very weak, but organized enough to maintain some contours as it gets north of the islands on Thursday as opposed to in the islands like the European showed. But look what happens as it gets on up here toward Bermuda. It's finding temperatures, water temperatures in the mid 80s, and it really starts to strengthen. And then it takes this thing just south of Bermuda as a very, well, as a strengthening hurricane, probably a category 1-2 storm, something like that, moving on toward the west toward the end of the period. And as the GFS is wont to do, brings another tropical system right alongside it from time to time. But that's what's going. Why is the GFS doing this and the European doing something else? Well, here's what the GFS is showing in the upper levels of the atmosphere. You've got this big steering ridge. Okay, this is parked up here. We know that this acts as sort of a block, and air flows counterclockwise or clockwise around these ridges rather, so it would keep the system, here's Gabrielle right here, keep it kind of in this vicinity as it goes on out in time. Now we are out Wednesday the 10th, so this is right at the peak of hurricane season. So watch what happens to the flow. We lose some of the contours, but we can still see the storm here. But look at this big red area coming into Canada. If you've watched this channel, you know that we pay attention to what's going on up there in Canada when storms get out here in the Atlantic. And this system up here in Canada, this big block, migrates across, and we're seeing flow underneath that block send the flow back toward the west, and that's why the system is slowly being deflected back to the west. Look at that, ridging over the top, sending it back to the west, and that block moves on out, and as it does so, here comes another trough that kind of opens up a weakness, and my guess is this would start to turn north. But look what happens, another block moves in, and this would send it on into the east coast if this were to play out. Now, no reason to be panicky about that right now. That's just the GFS. The European doesn't show that, and the European shows something different, a much weaker system. But all these solutions are on the table. So what are we supposed to do right now? Watch Cold Rain's Weather World every day, and I will show you exactly what the models are showing in the latest guidance. But way out 2 weeks, no model knows what the pattern's going to look like. There's too much chaos in the atmosphere, and that's what we've got. The GFS ensembles, as we take a look at the actual combination, the mean of all of the different runs of the different ensemble members, shows something a little bit different than the scary GFS solution. It has a little bit of a trough here off the East Coast, and it shows the block a little farther back toward, you know, central Canada. So instead of way out here over north of Newfoundland. Okay, so a lot of different options on the table. Pay attention to what's going on over the next several days. We'll get a better handle on it as we move in. No need to take any action at all if you're in the islands. Just watch it, be prepared in case something changes. Here's the European ensemble probability of tropical development over the next couple of weeks, and you can see very, very high out here for our system that we're watching, potentially Gabrielle, and also not too shabby here across the southeast and Gulf as well with some probability. So again, European ensembles a little bit more enthusiastic about development here. Down here in the Caribbean and north of Colombia, could see a little bit of tropical action down here, bringing some rain into places like Nicaragua, Panama, and Costa Rica too. So watch out for that over the next couple of weeks. But that's what we're looking at out here in the Atlantic today, folks. I keep you posted every day. Now we're going to take a look at fall and the record-breaking air mass that we're expecting and seeing actually over the next couple of days. But I'm going to test your weather IQ right now before we do that. In the same vein as yesterday's question, I got another weather map question for you today. All right, so here it is. What is the term for lines which connect points of equal pressure on a weather map? Isotherms, isotorques, isobars, or isocrazy? Maybe a little bit crazy here at Cold Rain's Weather World, but you will know the answer to this question if you hang out till the end of the show. If you already know it, type in the comment section. Let me know where you're commenting from too. By the way, it's always nice to hear from you. I read all of those comments every single day, and I will respond to them every single day. But let me know if you know the answer to the question. Coming up now, we've got to look at the forecast over the next couple of days, including some record highs and some record lows. Let's start today with the air quality map, shall we? But before we do, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button down below. It's free, it's easy, it helps us grow the channel. Give the content a like, and certainly leave a prayer request in the comments. If there's anything I can pray over, please put it in there. It gives me and others the chance to pray for you and lift you up and support you. And that's really what we ought to be doing today, folks, not just on a weather show, but just out in the world. Not to be helping each other and supporting each other. And there's a lot of division, a lot of anxiety out there, and this can help relieve some of that by just caring for other people. So I always say that it's very important to me. In any event, What's important now is take a look at this air quality map, and there's a piece missing up here. There's not anything showing here, but there are air quality issues up here just north of Glasgow in Montana. So keep that in mind, folks. Up here north of Spokane, down here around Portland, Salt Lake City, Fresno, Phoenix, and Houston could see some air quality, some haze, some stagnant conditions down in those areas where it's hot and hazy and stagnant, folks. That's where you get your air quality issues. Everybody else looking good. Just want you to be aware of it, in case you're sensitive to that. Here's your satellite picture. Look at this. Can you find the front? Bet you can. There it is from north of the Great Lakes, sagging back through South Dakota, secondary push coming in up here. Look at this flow blasting out of the northwest here, blasting out of the southeast over here in the west, and moving from west to east down here in the southeast. And I'll show you why that is here in a second when we look at the flow map. But certainly some rain out there today from Thunder Bay up here toward International Falls, back through Marquette, southern Wisconsin, around Dubuque, and then Des Moines, Omaha, seeing some rain back toward Lincoln and up toward Pierre, maybe Sioux Falls, Sioux City, seeing some rain as well. Down here in Bristol, over toward Chattanooga, and back into Asheville, getting close to where Cold Rain lives. Is showery activity out here and down toward Shreveport, just east of there. Back up in toward Reno and in western Nevada, where you need the rain, and Eureka, California, up here in southern Oregon too. All seeing rain, even a couple showers in Florida. A lot of cloud cover out there. And this afternoon, the threat of severe weather is here once again, back toward Wichita and over in toward Kansas City and places like that. Central Missouri could see some wind and hail, particularly as freezing levels are low enough to produce some very large hail at times if we see any supercells develop, and chances are that we're going to see that. Also could see a couple of quick tornadoes pop out of those supercells too. So keep your weather alerts handy, or your device that will show weather alerts handy this afternoon. Pay attention to what's going on out here in the southern plains. Here's the flow pattern I was talking about, and as we look at this, put this into motion, folks, you can see clearly where that upper low is as we move this map along. Oh, and by the way, there's tropical energy getting injected in the flow. Watch out for that too as we go and put this thing on out into motion. I'm going to move this along, leave the features on the map. Look, as we get on into this afternoon and toward Friday, in towards Saturday, look at this big bright color area. This is a jet streak in the mid-level flow, and it's going to spark a little low pressure that'll strengthen and bring rain here through the Great Lakes region as we go on over the next couple of days. So watch out for that, especially on Friday. Could be a little bit of a rainy period for you guys up there. So as we get on into Friday afternoon into Saturday, and from Saturday on into Sunday, look, things don't change all that much. Still got the big ridge out here, but finally a trough moving in. There's a big gyre sitting off the west coast, and that's going to come in and maybe relieve some of the hot temperatures and bring some showers out here to the northwest as well. But as we get on into Sunday afternoon, look at this. You're not making a lot of push with that front down into the southeast. As you can tell here, there is where the new low center is. Look at this, way up here in Canada. That's the only place, all the distance that it moved over the course of 5 days. So you can see the flow is not going to really be erratic in terms of its movement. It's going to be very, very slow. Got energy coming into the southwest too from that tropical moisture is going to get fed across into this. Could see an enhancement of rain across parts of the south along that frontal boundary. Now taking a look at the actual sensible weather here on the surface map as we go through the day to day, seeing those rain showers move across this morning into western North Carolina as well. We pick up this afternoon, got those supercells forming in Kansas, so be prepared to watch out for those. There's the trailing front from the parent low way up in Canada, and some showers out here in the Four Corners region. We put this on into motion through Thursday. Front makes its way to the east. Afternoon hours, we're going to see that frontal zone light up with showers, with thunderstorms. Some of those could bring gusty winds, so watch out for some wind reports. Monsoonal flow alive and well in the west. And getting into the upper southeast, we're even seeing some of those rain showers by Friday afternoon and into the evening. Or Thursday afternoon, evening, things will dissipate. And there's that low pressure I was talking about for Friday as we get into the morning hours, moving through Wisconsin, into the Great Lakes, into Michigan, the UP of Michigan particularly, starting to get strong and a little windy up there too. And more showers back through the northern tier of the country, or the northeast rather, you kind of make out that frontal boundary. It kind of extends all the way back here into the southern plains. Plenty of tropical moisture now into the southwest too Friday afternoon. And it could see some strong thunderstorms at times in parts of the mid-south. So pay attention Friday afternoon into the overnight hours there. There's your temperature map. Look at this. As we get on into this afternoon and evening, there's the cool air coming in, going to set some record lows up here with lows temperatures in the 30s and 40s, predominantly in 50s. And over here in the northwest, going to see some record highs over the next several days where heat alerts, excessive heat warnings, extreme heat warnings, and heat advisories are in effect up here in this area. So you guys take it easy up there, take breaks, hydrate, you know the drill, all those things. You've seen a lot of hot weather this summer up there, and that will persist through much of the work week. And as you can see, another blast of cool air comes in here into the Midwest, setting record lows potentially again as we get on in toward Friday morning. Things will moderate a little bit as it slowly pushes east. That's kind of the last blast for a while. But if you're looking for cool weather in the southeast, don't look for that until we get on in toward next week. It's going to be a warm weekend up and down the East Coast till we get later into the weekend. We start to see that press in late Sunday into Monday for parts of the southeast and get a little wedging down the east of the Alps, and then another trough pushes into the west. So that's what we've got going on there. As far as the longer range goes, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. Yesterday I did deep dive on September and really went into the pattern. Go check that video out. I've got it linked here at the end of this. But September the 8th through the 12th, we're looking at predominantly near to below normal, particularly centered up here. This is past the period that I just showed you on the map. So this is on out a few more days. Northeast is the signal for the most below normal anomalies. Alaska, Hawaii above, most of the west above, with the exception of the intermountain west out here. We can see below normal temperatures across the southern tier above as well. Above normal precipitation over the east, particularly down here in the southeast, and of course up here in the Pacific Northwest with that trough swinging in. It's going to provide some rain and unsettled conditions up there. Alaska and Hawaii both above, northeast and the Great Lakes not so good. And down here in the desert southwest below as well. And that's your forecast over the next several days. Now we're going to take a look at space weather and geological weather and wrap things up with the answer to your weather IQ question. Here comes the blood moon, folks, but not for 4 more days. In the meantime, we've got a big coronal hole turning toward us here. Look at this. It kind of acts like a triangle, or looks like a triangle here. We've got a big dark spot and extends up toward the north. That's a trans-equatorial coronal hole because it passes through the sun's equator. That's turning toward us. It will increase solar wind. What effect that has on the Earth's magnetosphere is TBD. We'll watch it and see how that solar wind enhancement plays out over the next couple of days, but we'll be set to experience potentially minor geomagnetic storm conditions as the result of it. In the meantime, we see some reverberation from the CME in terms of a few more spikes on the KP, looking at getting us into minor geomagnetic storm conditions. Sunspots, not too impressive. We've got a few around the limb about to turn in. These are not very complex. They would need to gain complexity in order to be a threat for massive solar flares and CME ejection. There's your aurora viewing. Not very much of a chance of it today or tomorrow, and the view line would be north of the states if it were to happen. So nothing to see on that front. Earthquake-wise, not much going on. Up here in the Kodiak region of Alaska, we're still seeing these earthquakes, the magnitudes of 3 to 4, somewhere in there. So I'm watching that. Not sure what that's about, but I've seen these about every day over the last week. So continuing to watch that. Not much else going on here. And the blood moon approaches September the 7th, the full corn moon. That's what the first full moon of September is called. And in this case, since we have a lunar eclipse, it will be a blood moon. As I said the other day, unfortunately, for those in the Americas, it will not be visible because it will be occurring during the daytime. But if you in Asia and other parts of the world, Africa, you're going to be able to see it. So that is a look at space and geological weather. And that brings us into the answer to today's IQ question, which was, what is the term for lines which connect points of equal pressure on a weather map? Isotherms, isotorques, isobars, I so crazy, and after this long show, you just might be. But the correct answer is C, isobar. Some of you guessed that as yesterday's answer. Well, now you know that lines of equal pressure We saw that earlier when we looked at the pressure map, and the tropical system moving across had those contours around it. Those are lines of equal pressure called isobars on a surface map, which is very common to see on weather shows. You will now know that they are called isobars. And you'll also know that back in 1976, NASA's Viking 2 lander touched down on Mars, becoming the second spacecraft to successfully land on the planet. It sent back the first close-up color photographs of the Martian surface. How about that? And also in 1995, a little bit closer to where we are now, the internet marketplace known as eBay was founded by Pierre Omidyar. Omidyar, I think that's how you say it. Anyway, I did a little bit better reading that to you today than I did yesterday. Don't go back and watch yesterday's video because it was a disaster. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Hope this helps you out, understand what's coming, and I'll do another show tomorrow, of course. And as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you the weather runs 24/7, but I got you covered right here, right now. Cold Rain's Weather World 4814. Have a wonderful afternoon.